Hello, everyone. I'm Gaurav Tripathi, and welcome to yet another episode of Code, Chaos, Clarity. Today, I'm honored to have a very special guest with us who is an accomplished technology and business leader and very much leading the space country where right now the talk of the town, yes, AI, and especially AI infrastructure. So great to welcome us today. This is Seema Ambastha, who is the CEO of L&T Vyoma. That's the L&T data center and cloud services and we are going to cover today about her journey, of course, but also how she's seeing the trends across AI infrastructure, everything that we talk around. The newer GPUs coming on, and yes, how power hungry and energy hungry the entire infrastructure space has become. So yes, let's start. Welcome, Seema, to Code Chaos Clarity.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. And I'm really, really fascinated with the code chaos and clarity. I had an opportunity to kind of watch a couple of them. So
Thank you.
definitely look forward.
Thank you. Uh, so, Seema, here we always start with first knowing the person. You know, so behind the leader. So, where are you from? A bit about your early life, schooling, and how was your first exposure to technology or computing. So, please.
Thank you. I'm from Bangalore, so born brought up in Bangalore. Of course, I settled in Bombay, but more from Bangalore, and that still lives in me very strongly. Uh, my early days was very interesting. I did my schooling like anybody else, more grounded with science being the leading. And in my family, if you weren't doing science, then I think you're not worth to be noticed, right? So it was all about science. So science, maths, and it just kind of kept me very, very grounded with that, and also logic. And that's how I grew up at times, or I came into times when I think in the same generation where IT was not, or technology was not so omnipresent, but certainly computers were scarce, access was limited. But whatever it is, to get into that, into the groove of into IT, and also the curiosity, aspiration was a lot of heavy lifting. If you ask me, way back in '89, when we just stepped into this. But yeah, and this was all not by accident. It was really by intent, and that's how I used my logic and, of course, my strengths in science to kind of get into technology. My first, very first encounter or transition into the technology, into computer and technology was. It was not so much about itself, but it's a possibility that it brought, right? I was really fascinated. And yeah, that's how the journey began.
Great. So, when was the first time that you saw or used a computer?
1990, I touched it.
Wow.
And that was a really big one with a green screen. That itself fascinated me. Can you just imagine the world of possibility that it brought? It really awed me, and I was fascinated. First time I touched rugged keyboards, and my first programming. I did join as a programmer like anybody else, and the first one was FORTRAN and COBOL. And I still remember taking a printout, which was like, running into roles and trying to figure out physically where the problem could be. It was a very fascinating world.
But when do you see that the that decision really merged, or when you really thought of that? Yes, you're going to enter into IT.
Yeah, it was a very natural transition actually. So I did masters in computer science. So computer science itself was when so it was not there during my undergrad days. The first time that was in 89 when they really put it when they had that as a discipline. Fascination. Let me tell you, it was one of those first batches
Wow.
coming out, right? Um, so it was evolving even as an education stream. It was evolving for our profs. It was evolving for us and limited resources. So there were labs with just one or two. You have to book your time, fight for the computer, all of those stuff. And there was internet, I think, I don't know what we were working on, honestly. Yeah, there was some form of connectivity. It was everything was in batches, nothing was real time. But I was absolutely sure that this is where, and see, let me tell you, I knew that this was going to underpin a lot of industry. And I don't know what really set me off thinking. So, one of the things that really kind of made me step into this is I really wanted to see how this shapes the industry, be a part of that, and not be a part of, consuming it. And that's where I made a decision into IT,
So you wanted to be the builder, not the consumer.
not a consumer. Yes, I was pretty sure in 91.
And it's your journey throughout being at Oracle, VMware, and of course one of the companies which I love, NetMagic, and NTT, and now at L&T. All of this. So if you can give us as a run through on uh, how you moved in your career path, and what were the transition points, well, like, because naturally when you moved on, uh, it must mean s- you would have seen something, but like, okay, now this is the time, there is something else that's coming. So if you can just walk us through.
So, yeah, I spent nearly 16 years at Oracle. One of the most beautiful part of the journey that it had or introduced me was really enterprise and mission critical, what it means, because database, server tech, which I was part of, was such a core, a bedrock to this whole stuff. So I saw how important it is to pay attention as a support person to a 7 ticket, right? It really taught you the significance of mission critical workloads. That went on, and it was a long story, but I'll keep it short. The next thing was when I transitioned in 2009 to VMware. See, listen, it was so beautiful to see move from server tech into infrastructure scaling, into virtualization, into abstraction. Fascination world taught me everything. I certified myself in all of that technology, leaving no stone unturned because I definitely, and I was services head, not just for India, but also for a larger geography. So yes, and also P&L responsibility with it. So it was a beautiful combination of both. Then I think I was introduced to the real world challenges in entity, that magic. I came in when entity had a controlling stake, and that's the time I stepped into this place, not just as a technology leader, but also as a business leader. So, what it taught me is really introduced me to the world of real world challenges with data center, uptime, service levels, or managed services, all of those. And now it was a full circle, right? Going from database technologies to abstraction and infrastructure at scale to the real world. And by the time I moved into BAM Delar as a CEO and then into L&T Vyoma, Larsen and Toubro Vyoma, I think I had the full stack view of silicon to software, customer to compliance, and of course the economics. I think that is what it taught me. So if you see, all of these transitions were with a purpose rather than just being, and then rest of the things naturally follows, right? Because you've been part of that.
So you have seen these key transition in the technology world in all this while, and uh, but in your life, at what point did you realize that you wanted to you wanted to move from being the engineer to the CEO?
That's an interesting question, actually. So, one of the things that I saw when I was in customer facing roles is that technology is not so much of an inhibitor as much as strategies are. So, it's not that technology is the only decision making point. It's strategies. So things like in strategies like all the strategic things like the commercial uh, budgets, risks, these are not something that you can solve with tools or technology. This needs more than that, and this is a very, very important ingredient to the whole transformation of technology. And that is where I thought combining the technology strength with that of business and leading that with bringing the technology decision points to the table of business and looking at the business outcomes and success. I think it has a lot of merit, and this is not something, probably not everybody does this, but if you have some strengths and you want to develop that, I think it makes a very good transition. So that was a point. I think it was around 2006. I definitely focused on getting on to understanding the little thin line between technology and commercial.
How did you manage to keep the engineer in you at range, like, because the moment you are moving on to business, at times the engineer inside where you just have to, oh, have to solve this, but then that maybe you're not the one who should be looking at that. You are looking at the bigger picture. So how did that shift play out, that in mentally as well, not letting that engineer get into identity control?
Oh, brilliant question. Actually, that's right. Letting off that smart person in you, just take the back seat, is not easy. Um, at the same time, I realized, when I transitioned to these roles, one of the most important things that you have to understand is not to have answers for all questions, but to ask the right question. This is a difficult transition. Let me tell you. Wisdom. And this has to come early on. So if you are the smartest person, then you're not letting go of that technology. So this transition I made very early. So that's I believe, is one of the success contributors to my being successful in my venture of getting into the business with the technology as a background, right? As a strong foundation of technology. So that is one. And the second is also being having or rather looking at some of these things where you're able to unleash the strength of your team by telling them why they have to do something and leave the how part to them. And you're there as a leader to kind of support them. I think these are the things which made it easy. Otherwise, you'll hold on to it for life and you keep overstepping.
Now that you're leading one of the India's most ambitious sovereign cloud data center ventures, with all the talk around happening, the great infrastructure that is being built, what's your philosophy around building the infrastructure itself? Like, it should be secure, sovereign, scalable, AI ready. What's driving that?
So, first thing that's driving on the sovereign as a platform is, of course, to design based on sovereign. So, everything right from the foundational design being on sovereign, secure, scalable, compliant, and scalable by intent, right? So, these are some things which are fundamental. And we are not trying, I am trying to see that you put a right product at the right place, at the right market, and not do too much of retrofitting and offsetting, which is not a great thing because it just starts, too much of what do you call? Uh, it has a lot of commercial impact and it also has impact on customers. So we are trying to keep that low. So we don't build ambitious. When you're sovereign, it's very important to understand what sovereign product is right for the market and build that so that's how the designs are. That's how the vision is. It's very important to lead with that vision. The vision is very clear. You want to be a hyperscaler for the country, born in the country, for the globe, right? So you will start, and that sovereign flavor of the car of what you want to bring for the country should be the right product, right market, right time.
We see big numbers being thrown almost every day. Last year were announcements wherein things are already in motion. The huge bet, like $500 billion bet, that's being taken, what's being built in Texas. And with compared to that, a lot of people say that India is not investing enough, or that in terms of the number of GPUs or the kind of infrastructure, we are falling behind. But how do you see this, the India's infrastructure needs? Is it really right that you're falling behind, or is it that India's infrastructure needs are different from the global markets? Or how do you bring that balance between what everybody is saying, that you need X only, then only it will work? So global best practices, and sitting in India, with the local nuances that.
Let's give you a practical answer to this, right? So, number one, capacity on the data center side. So, India is at a very unique position. Number one, we are able to build a new product without retrofitting a lot. So, we don't have too much of idle capacity. So, we're not going back and retrofitting. We have been building on time. A little bit of lag, but then we are almost on time. So, I would really give a lot of credit to this industry, because data centers are such that you don't want to keep them idle. It's a disservice of all forms. So, it's very important, both in terms of the amount of capex you put, that you monetize it. And it's for both. It's for the government, corporate, just everybody. The second, that is something that's going as per the plan. Let me tell you, we are about 15 players in different markets, different numbers, but overall India about 15 players. But all of us are bringing certain amount of capacity right time to the market. So that's one part. The second, we are probably the country in the world who has some very, very good quality power, coming both from renewable and also from the traditional sources. So I think if you see globally, we are ample good quality power available. So you will see a lot of shift where the capacities need to be really planned and built. So that gives us a great opportunity. And we all want to be playing to that opportunity and not just doing things, right? That's one. The second, on the GPU. Good question asked. Is India leading, India lagging? Let me just put it simple terms. You're innovating at a pace where it is difficult to absorb. The market is not being able to absorb at that pace. We want to be building the right amount of capacity with the right amount of technology, right kind of technology. So you will see that all of us will try and build a capacity for India that is ideal. So let me give you an example. There is so much of H100, there's so much of H200 from GPU perspective of capacity that we built, now B200. Some of us are looking at B300. Some of us, we want to go ahead and build capacity around GB300, and also and parallelly build data centers that can scale and host the next generation of maybe Vera Rubin from the Grace processes. So I'm saying we're getting ready, we are there, and we also want the market to absorb. So there's no point investing ahead of time. You should just be able to invest just in time. And I think that trade off is okay for India at the moment.
And you mentioned about the that here it's being built grounds up because we don't have much of legacy, and so we are not retrofitting legacy systems. But what does that practically mean from an architecture platform perspective?
Yeah, just a complex question. I'll try to put it very quickly. So we started off as an industry looking at what? Supporting 10 kW, right? Per rack. Oh, that was easy. Cold aisle contained, just simple. The next we said, oh no, this should go to 30. That also looked okay with air cooled. We said, okay, nothing needs to be changed, just maybe cold aisle to hot aisle. Then we said 30 to 70. Okay, now we started becoming, okay, it's not just cold aisle to hot aisle. It is also to do with the load bearing capacity. So that was enhanced. Then we said 100. Now we said, okay, cold aisle to hot aisle to liquid cooling. So that was now bringing the ability to bring dry cooling technology, dry coolers, and also having the right amount of water in a closed loop to be supplied. So that requires a little more different uh, setup within the, or rather the infrastructure within the server halls, right? So gradually, yes, this is what you need to architect for. And how much quantity, whether you want it ultra high density only, or you want it hybrid, or you want the combination with retail, all these are design considerations. And we have to look at the market demand and do the design accordingly. That's how we are doing at this. So these are the major architectural changes that we are looking at as data center.
Coming back to sovereign. So sovereign AI cloud has been big themes, and with the impact AI summit being there, everybody is talking about that. But what does sovereign AI mean to you?
Yes.
And in general, people think that it's in terms of only data localization, and but why it is for that it's beyond that.
Much beyond that, I think it is about control more than localization. Everybody will localize data, but it is about local laws and control. So, sovereign gives you a freedom of local law and control, which is what is important. If you build sovereign, that means it applies to the law of this country and not something else. So it's, you can say you're hosted here, local from a data perspective, but are you truly sovereign from a law perspective? I think that is where it applies more, right? That's where it will like really, and that's what we are trying to bring. We are totally sovereign in such that it not only applies to localization, it also applies to control and the law. And that's how our products are designed, built, implemented for India and what we will look at it globally.
What are the biggest architectural or engineering trade-offs, if any, when you are building primarily from sovereignty perspective, and then of course looking at performance and affordability and all the different levers?
So actually, this is a brilliant question. You know what? Let me tell you, the biggest challenge that you have is to see resilience versus scalability. It brings a bunch of cost challenges, performance versus service levels, another bunch of so you take very, very conscious calls on what your trade-offs should be to be able to put the right product. If you over optimize any of these, it will have impact on your pricing, on your being competitive. It also has impact on the overall TCO of a customer. So you might not, you over optimize on say service levels, you over optimize on say performance, both you over optimize on say availability. You're taking from tier 3 to tier 4 and beyond may not be required, right? So it has multiple cascading impact on carbon, impact. So we do these conscious trade-offs to say, okay, this product, what we are building requires this level of performance and this level of availability, and therefore we will we will have this as a spec, which is a trade-off between performance, scalability, compliance, security. So some of these things which are non-negotiable are like compliance and security. So we do not really do any trade-offs over there. But yes, on this we do, so we don't over-engineer and transfer cost to the customer.
Given your transition from the technology role into the leadership, and now that of course you've been building teams for such a long time, uh, what are the leadership principles that you go by, or which have helped you build and scale such teams?
I think one of the most important things in is to give teams freedom. As a good leader, you should be able to give them freedom, and that is exercising less control, right? The two leadership styles, directive, high control, and people who are more federated, or what do you call it, like a more of freedom, degree of freedom, and stand by them for what they do. I would prefer the second style. That's been one of the very important guiding principles where I love to give accountability, responsibility, accountability, empowerment. Fundamentals for the teams to bloom and the teams to grow and teams to own and deliver, right? So if you're more directive, I think it takes away that freedom, not just freedom, that fun of contributing, right? You just do what you're supposed to do. But I think we need to give them. So my principle has been very clear. I also enjoy empowerment. I also like to give empowerment. So that's one. I enjoy accountability. I love to have my team have that accountability.
How do you nurture the teams, going forward? Like, it's one into, getting, let's say, getting the right people. Of course, you have the, entry itself, where, yeah, you're getting the right people, and then yes, you are building the teams over a period of time. But then uh, larger teams, you have to also nurture them slowly. And given this in an area where it's a very hybrid thing. You have on one end, you have the technical folks, cloud, AI. Then you have completely the real estate part, construction, everything related to that. And I think being with L&T, I can completely understand. Engineering is not restricted only to what we look at typically, the IT side of engineering.
Yes.
There, it's actual, the real ground engineering as well. And then of course you're the commercial. So all of these very different folks, in the team. So how do you ensure that, in the same organization, it really, you're able to nurture and get them as a team along?
Let me not take all the credit for this because L&T has a very, very beautiful culture of nurturing talent, top talent and talent. Number one thing, they do take engineers and they don't just keep them as just engineers, right? Excellence in engineering is an obsession for this company. Customer centric is an obsession for L&T. And those are the most beautiful things for which this brand is known for. And I really admire and I wanted to really work for this brand. One of the most important things I learned when I came here, and even a little before that, is don't compartmentalize people. So I do not do that. I want technology folks to know something around business and nuances of business. And I want business teams to know the complexity and constraints technology brings so that there is a complete cross skilling where they appreciate each other's constraints under which they work and they can work as a team together, right? In harmony. That brings harmony. If you keep them totally compartmentalized, they won't be able to appreciate each other's constraints.
Yes.
So we expose them and we do it very programmatically that they should be part of it.
Wow. Coming back to the technology side. So uh, I was following what you've been speaking at events and so on. So you've been talking about observability uh, and telemetry and all this, and now we are looking at the different, even at the infrastructure point of view. Given the AI workloads, you have observability, telemetry, and the infrastructure itself needs to be optimized for deep learning. How is L&T Vyom really looking at the architecting these foundational layers?
So some of these principles like observability per se is quite fundamental to our cloud design. I think it's the bedrock of our cloud design. So it keeps evolving. We don't arrive. It comes from a lot of input from customers, but we would like to have observability not just at the application layer, not just at the orchestration layer, definitely going deep into infrastructure, then going deep into data center. If you ask me, have we been able to integrate and arrive at all of it? Not so much, but you pointed very rightly. AI can be quite a catalyst in bringing all of this together. So there are some very focused projects that we are working on where we can put all of this together with the intelligence, which will help us actually have a better view of observability because they are all different classes, integrating them, giving an harmonized view is not that simple. So AI is very pivotal, and some of these are now part of the our offshoot, which comes as an AI project.
And we were talking about quantum computing, and we shared earlier that you are doing a PhD on it, and now that you're already working on it at personal level. I want to know how do you see, like, with quantum computing being on the horizon, where do you see that the role of quantum infrastructure in the computing world? Again, do you see this is something which is ready, or this is something still somewhere far in the future?
So classical computing is something uh, that I think now has reached a point where it has comfortable amount of resources, skills. Um, you know, I think in terms of use cases and everything, we we still see quantum a little bit still at scale
Mm.
or more research, more isolated. That's what I see as of now. But what I do think in the next coming 2, 3 years, you're going to see quite a bit of shift, right? The most important thing is people have started caring for two things in quantum. Number one, you definitely need resources. Resources have to be easily available to be able to look at specific use cases which can be deployed on quantum from a mainstream perspective. So that is one. The second thing is how well you can commercialize that compute. It will be extremely important to see how quickly, easily you can commercialize that. It should not be just for few and things like that, but it should be available. Third thing, how do you integrate classical to quantum will literally define the success of quantum. Quantum in isolation will always be very difficult. If I have to physically, manually break my workloads and put them on different places, collate them, that will be cumbersome. I think the path is evolving for integrated computing, universal integrated computing, and I'm one of them. Let me tell you, my PhD subject is actually smart, that is smart edge to quantum continuum,
Oh,
right? That is so I'm literally looking at right from communication layer to the software layer. What are the gaps that exist and how we
mhm.
can bridge it with some new findings, with a new things that we can discover, and make it more of a framework which can just be easily adapted within the industry.
And do you think the use case, like, for compute quantum computing, it's I think it's already there that you see, or rather, the better question would be, what's the first use case which you see would be moving to quantum?
I think you guys are doing a lot of work. That should be the first use case. I think the first use case is drug discovery. Definitely. You actually talked about something I think we had when we had an offline discussion. You said we did this in X amount of money in X number of days, which would have taken years otherwise. Just imagine you can do it at fraction of that at a fraction of a time with quantum. So your area of drug discovery, AI for drug, is the first use case that should, and it's not just of commercial importance. I think it's of human importance, and it should happen as quickly as you can, like whether you looking at some synthesis, or you're looking at proteins, or you're looking at molecular, or you're looking at applying this for drug. It is going to make a huge sea change from your computing if it is well integrated.
Yeah.
I think it'll be widely used, right? So that's my aim, definitely, and it that's our aim too. And I think I personally, because of I'm doing the PhD, and the whole idea is to really play. This is one of the challenges that I saw in the real world, which was my motivation to do PhD.
Yeah. And here, see, in terms of the computing paradigm, we saw uh, a paradigm shift when actually the GPUs came in, because the typical uh, way of solving problems was, yes, you are stuck with how the CPUs work. Like, yeah, fine, everything is running in a sequential manner, everything. With GPUs, for the first time, it was like, oh, things can be run in parallel. Now, do you see it's like with quantum, is it also a paradigm shift in terms of how people will be able to think of the solution, or this is just another incremental way of looking at computing?
No, this won't be delta change. So yes, there was manifold delta change between the CPU and GPU. Definitely manifold. I'm not saying delta, manifold. But from GPU to QPU, it'll be quite a quantum change, right? So I think I basically think this is going to be phenomenal, and to become widely available. Two things, of course. One, India should definitely focus on having sovereign quantum with reasonable amount of power, so that it becomes easily available. That is one. Second, I'm not sure in the near future, but to look at quantum from quantum superconducting to maybe technologies that are very close to room temperatures, if not now in near future, which is very important for India. Because one of the limiting factors within quantum, after even talking of all the success, is the refrigerant itself, right? So we must see what is it, and that's where the innovation will play a very important role. And I think India will play quite a catalytic, pivotal role, driven by the need. And I think that is going to be quite phenomenal in days to come. I'm not particularly working on the hardware side, but it is important. Anything that you do as a PhD in quantum, you have to know the fundamentals of quantum, both in terms of physics and in terms of material. So these are some of the things. So first, it'll be quantum change, and second, it'll be a paradigm shift, and third, of course, there are unsolved problems still, whether it's mathematical, logistical, drug, healthcare, mm, many others, right? Where quantum is absolutely, and it should never be thought as a distant. It is there. And no matter what you want to think, it's going to happen, right? Just like how no matter what people thought of GPUs
Yeah.
and AI, it happened when it had to, but this is also. And this is definitely there.
And now I have to ask that question: why a PhD now?
Yeah. Why PhD now? So there are two things. One, I'm an eternal learner. Okay. You can learn two ways. You can learn just a self paced learning, or you can do structured learning. I think quantum as a technology, if I want to set myself up for the next 5 years to be very productive, uh, technology is definitely something that I won't, I'm not going to just move into business for heck of being in business, but technology fascinates me. I continue to contribute. And if I want to contribute in that, then I think it's very important to have depth and structurally, be there, right? This is quite a shift. It's not like, we have spent enough time through experience, you can learn. I think we need people with the depth. And I definitely want to see if I can make significant contribution. If I do a paced like 3 years, 3 years, 3.5 years, I'm looking at my PhD with a very focused. I have already written my proposal. I know I'm aligning to the National Quantum Mission. I'm seeing whatever I put as a framework can be used widely and useful for country. So it really helps me to do it with a mission. And that is why now. There is nothing called now. I think you can, there's no age for learning that, and you have an intent, you can do it.
Yeah. That that inspires me actually. That maybe I should also think about it. Definitely. Uh, with everything around GPUs and we've gone. One thing which everybody is talking about now, I think people are wondering if uh, what's changing fast or faster, the fashion or the GPU versions. So there are newer GPUs coming in by the time you are able to get hold of what was there in the market. And is that something which people should wonder about? Because every time you think that, oh, maybe I should wait for some more time and get that latest one, or maybe the one that I have. How long will I be able to use this? How do you view this? And in fact, what's your recommendation for people who are thinking of buying or leasing out GPUs?
Every GPU, whatever has come in the last 3 years, what I've seen, like 100, H100, H200, A100, then B200, B300, and GB300. Everything has an application still. I'm able to find customers for all of them. We are able to find use cases. We are able to deploy. We actually have all the GPUs exhausted. We are always waiting for another set of GPUs to be deployed. So as you start deploying more infrastructure and capacity, you can keep buying more recent ones. But that doesn't mean you keep waiting. You don't have to. You empower the nation. Give them access to the infrastructure so that they can really innovate. So you can't have a dream of innovation on one side and keep waiting for that stable version, which will, monetizing. You can monetize with all of them. So I don't think that should drive your decision. You should just, yes, one thing is for sure. Definitely, NVIDIA is innovating at a pace where the market is and customers are not able to absorb at that pace, but that's okay. I mean, that said, it's still there. As long as they are supported, I don't think I don't think it is you don't have to wait. You should invest and just buy whatever is current.
And now, since we are shooting this just before the Impact AI Summit, uh, is there anything that you can share what people are going to see from Vyoma on in Impact AI Summit?
Yeah, so you see in the L&T has a vision across the company. By the way, L&T comes with a lot of domain knowledge with 85 years of experience behind. I think the data that they have is so credible to train and come up with models which are close to reality, right? So you're going to definitely see innovations
Wow.
in that space from AI. The second, of course, is you will see a lot of new generation, the next generation AI around autonomous car or driving, humanoids, um, robotic arm, automations, maybe all of those things. Then, of course, the infrastructure piece in terms of how we are helping, and we're also building an ecosystem where you can use that infrastructure. You can really put that to play and make it more. And we don't want that to be infrastructure per se. So we are really creating a seamless platform of ecosystem which you can leverage as a service. So you're going to see that also in action.
Now, one very sort of an obvious question. Typically, this whole business line, data center infrastructure has always been looked upon as and has been traditionally been what we call male dominated.
Hmm.
You don't see that many women there. Yeah. Uh, as you've been one of the few women leaders in this, at this level in this industry, uh, do you see being something special that being a woman when you are leading this and this thing, one, did that make a difference? And again, your journey has this shaped your leadership style and perspective, that you see that, yeah, you bring a slightly different perspective than what others could have.
I thought this would be your first question. This is coming almost at the end, which is interesting. So, most important thing, I don't think there is any job like a man and woman. I don't know why. So, the most important thing, all through my life, one of the things I have tried not to amplify is the gender. I think it should be treated normal, and I've never ever treated this as an exception. personally too. I am a woman, and therefore, you should consider. No, I have never had that. So I think it's been easy to deal with all the men colleagues around, because once you start looking at exception, then I think it is the gender. It has never been the case. That's number one. Has it shaped? Yes. Women by design come with certain things where we are hardwired to do lot of things, multiple of things quite seamlessly, and manage a lot of EQ with IQ, with LQ, logical quotient, and all of that. I think that brings merit to a great extent. I won't say it is not there in the other gender, but I think it is. It comes very naturally to us, and therefore it is a strength for any industry to have diversity very much as their focus, not as an amplification. So yes, and to answer your question, yeah, I think I bring a strength. And I strongly believe that it's not exception, it is normal.
Now, looking a bit ahead in the future, I know things are changing so fast. It's difficult to say, yeah, what's going to happen even next year. But yeah, if you fast forward 5 years, uh, how do you see this whole landscape? Intersection of cloud, sovereign AI infrastructure, and AI platform ecosystems, everything. Yeah, where do you see in 5 years? What do you see happening?
Number one, I will definitely see many of these things converging. So you won't see such sharp lines of being infrastructure, application, quantum, and then digital infrastructure. So they'll all converge. Like what happened, right, a few years back. Database used to be data too. How many people talk of database now?
Yeah.
It is just converged into some form of technology. It's not something that people even talk these days. I've never heard anybody saying, this is what I want specifically. So it will happen. Let me tell you, it is a, a, a use case, a problem that you're solving. So for that, a bunch of things. So it becomes like a converged solution that will go. It will not be so much of sharp lines between them. So that's the first thing you will see in next 5 years, right? And the second thing that you will see is definitely there'll be a thin line between AI and quantum or universal compute. Universal compute. Let's put it that way. So you will quite seamlessly try and and kind of consume it. You will not see a sharp what you're seeing today
Boundaries.
boundaries. They will all disappear. They'll blur, and that's a beauty. That's the evolving beauty, and it'll be very quick. It'll be soon, and it will be next 18 months or so. It won't take too long. So you're going to see some of these things, and these are something that's for better.
And now, what's next for you personally? When you look at now that you are at L&T Vyoma, and uh, where do you see yourself next at here itself, and then what kind of impact do you think you're going to, or what you are wishing for, that you want to have that impact on the industry, and what's it for you for next few years?
A lot of things, right? There's a personal aspiration that everybody has. Apart from what you do, I spent almost more than 3 decades. It's like 35 years, a long journey, an enduring journey, and also interesting journey. So I want to be. So I've been personally productive. I've been uh, enterprise wide looking at productivity. The next thing is to see what I can contribute to nation. Definitely, I think importance at national level of whatever that can make a difference is something that's significant to me, that's very important to me, and I want to have a significant contribution. That's one of the reasons why I'm so focused on doing my PhD. It will definitely bring value to Larsen and Toubro Vyoma as we embark on our journey of digital infrastructure. It will also kind of have an impact on national quantum journey that you want to have. I can be, if not an at least a significant contributor. So I see myself definitely doing a lot of work around that. I'm also building I'm also connecting with the ecosystem place. I'm also connecting with the fraternity. Um, Currently, I'm doing a lot of research review on already the amount of research that is done. So I'm connecting to that world. So as I move forward, I see myself more soaked into um, actually taking some of these problems from real world and making significant inroads, both as an individual and also from a fraternity perspective, more connected, more collaborated. It's that's not something that you can really do in the current role because you are focused, there is
Of course.
expectation, and you continue to keep that. My mainstream focus is definitely now in this job to do full justice to my role and at the same time kind of give myself a space to learn.
Yeah, that's all for today. Thank you so much, Seemaji. This
Don't call me
uh,
Seema ji, Seema.
has been an incredible, insightful conversation, and really great to see that the path on which the nation is headed, with leaders like you taking a charge on the infrastructure side. I'm sure nation is ready, getting ready to launch into the next orbit with all of this great infrastructure.
I feel greatly humbled. First thing is you are doing a great job.
You.
I think I mean, what I've seen today, both in terms of your intellectual, technological, uh, I don't know what to say, from the amount of patents that you guys have filed, the contribution that immensely you're doing. You are doing a great job. So I do feel very humbled. First of all, at your age, it's an amazing feat. I have no words to describe that. Honestly, it's such an endearing journey here today, talking to you, all the more, knowing you all the more. And I really appreciate the work you're doing. And I hope we have an opportunity as L&T, not only partner with you, but also in a strategic position and in a strategic context, partner, go to the market, and we are able to really create that value together. It's such a lovely thing to see the contributions around this drug discovery, then the AI that you have for the general purpose. You talked about completely diverse AI, which you built like overnight, the kind of talent that you harness, um, and 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 the amount of freedom you have given them to unleash. And it's been an eye opener for me. And as a young man, you've done a great deal. It's more than what I have. This is just a conversation to know me, but I think you really deserve a lot of credit.
Thanks a lot for
Really.
your extremely
And your
kind words.
team also, I really congratulate. And, it's a journey that's been very worthwhile for me today.
Thank you.
If you like the podcast, you know the drill. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.